Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, good day to everybody everywhere out there in the world. I hope you're having a good time. Uh, we're here to look at After Effects again. It's been a while. I feel like I kind of miss you guys a little bit. I hope you're all having a good day. We didn't stream last week because Adobe had more important things to do than put on my little stream. And the week before, if you recall, we covered some green screen stuff, and that was fun, talking about Keylight and After Effects. This week, we're still going to play with a little bit of video, but it's going to be at the very, very, very end. Instead, we're going to build a lower third in After Effects. We're going to use some fun animation techniques, a little bit of masking. If you're a total beginner After Effects, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're intermediate or advanced in After Effects, I think you'll still enjoy it, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two. And then we'll export it out of After Effects as what's called a MOGRT, bring it into Premiere Pro, where you will be able to customize it and change the text and change everything you want in that animation, but preserve the animation. So it's like a useful way to make an animation, package it up, and ship it over to Premiere. So we will go ahead and get started. Oh, you know what? I just realized I didn't bring the chat up, so I'm going to be flying a little blind today, I think. But keep posting the comments, and I'll find a way to get back to you guys. But with that out of the way, let's get started in After Effects right now. All of this is going to begin. If you've downloaded the working files, you'll have 4 video clips, and you will have this day 03 working project After Effects file. If you open that, you'll get this, which is just an empty file. The reason I'm giving it to you is because we're working, oops, we don't want new composition. We want composition settings here. Let's right click on this and look at our composition settings for a quick second. We're just working with a full 4K composition. We're at 30 FPS. I'll be honest with you, when I'm making after motion graphics, I usually like to go 60 or even 120. I want max frames. I want to build the smoothest animation possible, and then I'll downsample or export differently later. But whatever, for the sake of what we're doing, we're going to stick with 2997 here. So you're going to have all this set up for you, basically, if you download that file. So let's get going. We don't have that much time today, so I want to move kind of quickly so we have time to preview this stuff. So we'll begin with the text tool, and I want to make a lower third that carries somebody's first name, last name, the company who they work for, and their title at the company, let's say. So we'll begin with the first name. And I was thinking earlier, what would be a cool, like if Adobe had a mascot for After Effects, what would be a cool name for that? And I came up with the name Motion. Now, I'm going to make this text a little bit bigger here. And I might actually, well, let me make the text bigger first. So let's just select this and try like, I don't know, 300 pixels. That's pretty big. That's pretty good. The little anchor point is down in the bottom corner, which is a little annoying. I'm going to use the hotkey Command Option Home to pop it back to the middle. If you're on the PC, I believe that would be Control Alt Home. And then I will go ahead. I'm going to collapse the preview. Maybe I'll just close the preview part of the panel and make sure my align panel's open. That's just here, window align. And I'll align this to the center of the composition. Now, I do have this paragraph left aligned, which is going to be pretty important because not everybody is going to have the first name Motion or have 6 letters in their first name. I'm Nathaniel. My name has like 1,000 letters in it. So you want to leave room to give somebody some space for their name. So that's cool. So we've got Motion. I'm going to move Motion's name down a little bit. But Motion's just his first name, or her first name, actually. We haven't even assigned anything. Let's go ahead and duplicate this text. Well, actually, before we duplicate the text, let's choose our font. I am going to choose a font that I got from Adobe Fonts. And without getting into the weeds here, if you can use Adobe fonts on your MOGRTs, they just tend to work a little bit better because that link back to the font is carried when you export your MOGRT from After Effects and bring it over into Premiere. So if you can go onto Adobe Font and find stuff you like, add that font family or that specific font, bring it into After Effects and work with it, things just tend to work better. So I was thinking there's this font that's kind of fun called Mudstone, which is kind of cartoony, maybe a little bit too cartoony for us. So let me go, like, here's one called Double Bass that I was thinking of, also kind of interesting, but also maybe too cartoony. I think I'm going to stick with something a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to go with this one called Tour. It's somewhere down here. Let me just get rid of this and just go down to T and find it myself. I'm probably spelling it right. There it is. Tondu, not Tordu. So it's just a big, fat, chunky, but sharp-edged font. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I like the spacing. Everything looks good. All right. I'm going to hit Command or Control D to just duplicate. And now we have Motion 2. Motion 2, we're going to drag down below. And we're going to name him Motion Maxwell because that's kind of a cool name. And it's alliterative. So we like that. Now, one thing that I did neglect to mention, I did not type. You can see here, these letters are not all in caps, and yet they're showing up in all caps. And that's because here in the text area, I have this turned on to set it to all caps. So if you want all caps or not, you can make your choice, whatever makes sense for you. I'm going all caps because I want to lock in all caps. I don't want it to specify to the person writing this or whatever. Make sure you do it all caps or, anything like that. This is just if you type in there, we get all caps. Great. All right. Let's create another line of text down here. And Maxwell is going to be the After Effects mascot professional. And I'm intentionally making this long and ridiculous because I want there to be a lot of words. So something like that. And then the font here, we're going to go with that Brother 1816. And we're going to go bold, I believe. And we're going to set this to a size of probably about 90. Probably a little bit less than that. Maybe down closer to 65. Something like so. And I'm just going to visually bring it over. And this is just for the sake of time. If you're working on a real project, get it perfect to the pixel. I'm going to bring it over so it's kind of where I think it should be. And then we'll put the company name up here. Whoops. Let's hit Command or Control D to duplicate this. And it's going to be this one that goes up on top. I'm holding down Shift while I drag just to keep it in perfect alignment. And I'm going to double click and let's just say Adobe Ink. There we go. So now we have Motion Maxwell. He works at Adobe and he's the After Effects mascot professional. Did we spell it correctly? I always notice after the fact that I have a dumb spelling mistake somewhere. So with Motion Maxwell now, what my thought is we're just going to do a simple animation where we have the text hidden and it is going to pop up from the floor. And we're going to make the floor and make what it pops up from behind. And we're going to do that using a mask. So let's first work with the word motion because, well, it goes first. So I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Actually, I'm going to zoom right back out. Let's make our mask first. Now we're going to make our mask by first deselecting everything. And it's important to deselect everything because as we know in After Effects, if we have anything selected and we use the shape tools, it's going to create a mask on that shape. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be terrible for this, but it kind of wouldn't work the way we want it to work. We want to create a mask on a separate layer because we want to animate our text behind that mask. So without getting into that, this is just the way that I like to do it. So I'm going to drag out a shape here, and I'm going to drag it all the way up until it looks like we're right up against the bottom of the text. And I can click and drag this and adjust it and make it just so I'm not clipping off the bottom of the O's. The O's tend to descend a little bit deeper than like the flats on the bottom of the MTI and N. So just make sure we're not clipping off the bottom of our letters. We're good. And now we have our mask shape. Well, obviously this looks terrible. It actually kind of looks a little cool if I'm being honest, but this is not what we want for our lower third. We need to convert this to a mask. How do we do that? Well, we can name the layer if we like by selecting and hit the Enter key and just call this mask first name or something like that. If you need help keeping track of it, I'm going to drag this and put it right on top of, or right above, I should say, the motion layer. So you mask first name and there's motion. Now, all we need to do is come down here to this toggle switches / modes button, hit that, and we have our track mat. Well, we can, from the track mat, select mask first name to be the mask. Now, what's going to happen is probably not what you thought because we want to show the word motion when motion is in the correct position, and it was in the correct position. What's happening is we've set a window with our mask, and we're saying that only when the text is underneath this square should you show it. I don't want that to be the way the mask works. I want this to say when the text slides behind this mask, then make the text disappear. But when the text pops up from behind it, obviously appear. That's easy to do. All we need to do is flip the mask right here, And now when we animate the text to go down, it's going to hide behind this mask shape that we just created. Well, that leads us to ask the question of how do we animate this? Well, there's a few things we can do. With motion, you can select the motion layer, hit the letter P to bring up position, and animate the Y. And you can see, hey, there's the text. It disappears behind the text. But I want to do something that gives us a little bit more control and customability, customization options, whatever that word would be. I want something that gives us flexibility. That's what I'm looking for. And we're going to do that by opening up the text, right? So we hit the little the drop down arrow, fly out menu thing, and we come over here to the word animate and hit the fly out menu, and we're going to choose to animate the position. So these animation options on text are really cool. There's a ton of really neat stuff you can do. We can't get into all of it here, but there's a lot of really powerful stuff you can do. We're going to go ahead and select position. And it hasn't done anything yet, but we have this animator that has now popped up underneath our text. So in this layer, we have text and a transform option. Under text, we have this animator that's been attached to our text. And what we have here is a position selector, but we also have this thing called range selector, which we'll play with that in a second. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and set the position to be something like this, where I cannot see the text. Okay, so you see the text gone. What we now want to do is choose to animate the offset of the text to make the text pop up. So we're going to offset the text from this 233Y position, right? Or maybe not right if you don't understand what I was saying, because that probably sounded complicated and verbose. It was. Go ahead and hit the little stopwatch here for the offset option. That's going to drop your first keyframe. We're going to leave offset at 0 because we don't want to offset it from its home position. Then we're going to come out here to about, I don't know, let's say 1 second. 1 second's probably a bit long, but I want you to really see the animation. And then we're going to set the offset to 100%. And that's going to move our text back to its original position, right? As if we haven't done anything to our position option down here. And now if I press space and play, we get this interesting animation, right? It's not the word popping up. It's actually letter by letter, the word is appearing. Well, that is cool, but I want it to be the full word. So we can tick down or dial down the advanced area. And under advanced, we have this based on option. And right now it's based on the characters. I want to base it on the words. So when I do that, now what we're going to have is the entire word slide up just like so. Now, also here in the advanced area, we have this ease high and ease low. Without getting into it and without making it really complicated, I'm just going to set ease low to 100%. It's going to give me just a little bit of just like it comes in quick and then fades. It still looks a little wonky. It's not quite as perfect as I would want it to be, but it'll work for us, right? So that's great. So let's quickly, we're going to do this a little bit faster now. Let's deselect everything. Let's create another mask for Maxwell. If we have time, we'll create the masks and animation for the small text, but we're essentially going to be doing the same thing. I want to get through the whole process, get this thing into Premiere and show you how it works as well. So make sure we've deselected everything. Grab our rectangle tool again, and we're going to draw another mask, this time for Maxwell, and something like that. And we're just going to zoom in again, use our selection arrow, and we're just going to drag this down and make sure that the entire word is going to be visible. Maybe actually give it a couple ticks of space, just because remember, we got to think about the descender on the O and some letters like that. Let's go ahead. We have this mask here. We're going to select it. I'm going to name this mask last name, right? There we go. That's creative enough. And we're going to drag it down and place it above the Maxwell layer. And then of course, with the Maxwell layer, we're going to say mask last name. And it doesn't work because we need to flip the mask. So we're going to flip the mask. Great. Now with the Maxwell text, we spin it down. We come over here to animate. We're going to animate position. And now we're going to position this until we can't see it. So something like so. Cool. And then we're going to open up a range selector. We're going to drop a keyframe for our offset. This is our starting position. We're going to come out around 1 second, which again, a little bit too long, but we're going to set the offset to 100 and we can preview and it's going to give us the letter by letter again. Okay. So how do we adjust that? We go back to advanced. We set it based on words. And just for easing sake, we're going to set ease low to 100 and match what we have. So now you can see we have our text show up just like that, but it's better. when we have the words kind of like the first word comes in and then the second word comes right after it. So let's adjust the timing a little bit. So we'll do this here by just dragging a selection over our keyframes and just bump them out a few keyframes. I'm not doing anything mathematically precise here. We're just having fun. There's motion, Maxwell, right? Motion, Maxwell. And they just kind of bump, bump, fade into place. Nice and easy. Let's go ahead here and let's export this as a MOGRT just to be able to take a look at it. Actually, let me show you one other cool thing real quick before we do anything else. Let's go back to the motion word because there's something else fun that we can do here. We can add another animator. So we have animator 1. Let's add an animator 2 here, and we're going to animate the character offset. And without getting into what this is exactly, I wouldn't worry about that for the moment. Let's just tick on our stopwatch for character offset and move over to about 1 second, right? There we are in our time, 1 second. And we're going to set the character offset to, actually the character offset here is going to be 0. So let's add a keyframe by hitting the little diamond icon, then hit the little go to previous keyframe. And we're going to set the character offset to like 25 or something. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us this like scrambled text effect that always is going to end on whatever word we've typed in. So it's just kind of this fun, other animation that we can add just for funsies. So let's go ahead and add that to Maxwell as well. So I'm going to spin this down. I'm going to go to text. I am going to add another animator, of course, the character offset. And here, we're going to try to line it up as best we can with our keyframes. It's probably not going to be perfect, but that's all right. We're going to set our character offset to start at 20 and then come over here. And it's going to end on 0 because 0 is like your home position, whatever that word is. That's where we want it to end. And now we've got both things come in and snap, motion, Maxwell, bang, bang. I can't do that thing with this hand, but I can do it with that hand. It's a little annoying. All right, so let's take this as it is and bring it over to Premiere and see where we are. And if we have time, we'll come back to After Effects and visit this again. All right, so in order to get this out of After Effects as a usable template, we're going to go Window, and we're going to open up here the Essential Graphics panel. It's going to pop this guy open right here. And the easiest way to do this is just to drag the piece that you want to be editable into the Essential Graphics panel. And I don't mean take and drag the piece off of here, although maybe that works. I'm not sure. No, it doesn't look like that works. The way I do it is I open this up and I open up text and I say, look, what do I want somebody to be able to edit and change in Premiere? I want them to be able to edit the source text, which is right there. So I'm going to click and drag source text, drop it. And it says motion. And right now the text field is filled with the word motion. I'm going to change the label for the field and I'm going to say first name. Right? I want that to be what people see in Premiere when they're adding this MOGRT to their file. I want them to see, okay, I had the person's first name. Cool. The other thing, see the set poster time? I like to use this. Like I want to be able to see what the finished lower third looks like. And you can see our poster right now is just, well, if we animated all the text, the poster would just be black, which is not good. It doesn't tell us anything. So I'm going to hit set poster time, and it's going to set it to what we see out here in our composition. So I can see, okay, cool. Yeah, that's the lower third that I want. All right, so we've got our first bit of text, and now we've got our second bit of text down here, right? You just twirl down text, grab the source text, bing, and I'm going to say last name. And right now it's filled in with Maxwell. And you can see, by the way, it's all lowercase, but it's being transformed to uppercase. So it can be whatever it is. All right, once you have that, we can give our lower third a name. We'll call this L3 underscore test or something like that. Or no, let's call it stream because we're streaming. And then I'm going to come down here and choose Export Motion Graphics Template. After Effects can say, hey, got to save your project. Thanks for reminding me, After Effects. Let's save it. And then we get this Export as Motion Graphics Template option. We can leave the compatibility stuff checked on. We can include the video preview, fine. And then destination for me is going to be local drive, and I'll browse and just say, yeah, we'll save it here in our day 3 folder. So go ahead and save and then hit OK. And now it's going to take a second. It's going to take a second. It's going to go ahead and process and process and process. And bang, we should have our MOGRT. So let's jump over to Premiere Pro for a second. Now here in Premiere, I have some video files. We can take any one of these. If I double click on one of them, it'll show me what's in it. I got the top of this boat. Yeah, let's go with this. We'll right click on it and we're going to say new sequence from clip. Here it is on a timeline now. That's great. And let's add our MOGRT to this. Maybe this is Lady of the Seas, or I don't know, whatever. We're going to go Window, Essential Graphics, and bang, it pops open. Once you pop this open, there's this little icon in the bottom right corner that says Install Motion Graphics Template. We're going to hit that. Now, because I test ran this right before I went live to make sure I didn't look like a complete fool, it brings me to the same folder where I was, and that is the 03 day folder. And here we have the L3_stream.MOGRT, MOGRT. Hence the name MOGRT, Motion Graphics Template. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. And there it is. And you can see it's carried our poster. So now if I have 100 of these that I've made, I can just at a glance see that's the lower third I want, or that's the lower third I want. Now, one thing that we did here, and by the way, to use this, just click and drag it and drop it on your timeline. Now, we didn't edit an animation out. Normally, I would put an animate out, maybe make that text disappear again at the end. You can spend the time to do all that. I'm going to close the Essential Graphics panel a second so we can see what we've got going on here. Now, we are working in 4K, and this is 4K video. And I went ahead and made the lower third big, and I put it in the middle of the screen. If you're working on a project, let's say you shot a documentary and you have the same lower third basically for the entire thing. Every time you interview somebody new, you have the same lower third. I would be inclined to create that in After Effects in the position where it's going to be in your video. That way you don't have to take this now and change the position every time you get in and there's somebody new on screen, right? Like you would drag your MOGRT in and the positioning would bang, be right there. The reason that I left it like this is because A, it just leaves more room to kind of spread out when you're creating it and when you're adding letters and stuff. But also, there's no telling that maybe in the project you're shooting, you want to put the name up over here, right? The name of this boat is Motion Maxwell, and we want to put the name of the boat up there. And I play this, and you can see it's our animation. Now, there's issues because we didn't animate Adobe and we didn't animate After Effects Mascot Professional. But what if we're looking at this and it's like, well, this isn't Motion Maxwell. This is, blue skies or something, the name of the boat that we need to tell or that we need to delineate. We can go back to our Essential Graphics panel, and you can see here we have, when we select this MOGRT, our Essential Graphics panel does have the browse feature, but it also has this little edit button. And if you hit that, it'll allow you to change, what did we tell it? A first name and a last name. And by the way, if we had done it with the text for Adobe, we would have said company name, and down here, the text on the bottom would have been position or job or occupation or whatever you want. So we can change motion to say blue, and down here, we can make it say skies. And there we go. We close the Essential Graphics panel, and what do you know? This is really kind of spread out down here in a way that I don't like. Blue and skies. So pretty cool, just like that. And like I said, if you have a project where you want all of your lower thirds to be in the same place, by all means, I would go ahead and all of my animation here in After Effects, I would do it. I can close the Essential Graphics here. I would do it just to push it all the way down to this bottom corner. Oh, and I should say, by the way, if you're not using Adobe fonts and it's a font that there's issues with or it can't link properly in Premiere, when you go through the process of exporting your MOGRT from After Effects is going to trigger like a little warning window that says, hey, you're not using an Adobe font. There's a potential that there's going to be problems, right? It'll just give you that kind of warning. So in the last couple of minutes we have here, let's quickly try to animate like the Adobe ink. So let's take this, we'll animate it in the same way. So we deselect everything, we create a quick mask. I like to cover the entire area beneath just because we can. And we'll select that, hit enter, return, and we'll call this company mask. And then here for Adobe Ink, we're going to say, give me company mask as our matte. We'll flip the matte. Cool. We'll go to Adobe Ink. Look at how fast this is. I mean, once you start doing it, you're going to be able to fly through this. Animate flyout menu, right to position. And we are going to, now this is as soon as I say that I have a brain fart, we're going to lower that, get it out of the way. We're going to open up range selector. We're going to begin our offset there. We're going to go to 1 second. And we're going to increase the offset to 100%. And then we can, of course, take this and just bump it out a little further, just so that our animation all staggers. right? And oh, of course, go to advanced and let's just go base it on words. And we'll do the same ease low that we had been doing. So you can see, I mean, it's really easy. And then by the way, when, oh yeah, and because it's, that's actually a good thing to show. You can see how it says Adobe Inc., right? And maybe you'll have somebody with a last name that's split in two or something. That's where this option here under advanced, base it on lines, comes into play, because now it's just going to make sure that it animates the entire Adobe Inc. in one shot up. And just the last quick thing here that'll show you, if we go back to the motion or the essential graphics panel, we have our first name, last name. If we go to Adobe, we would just drag this source text up there, bang, and we would call this company. And then you would go through the same exact process of just name your MOGRT, make sure you select your poster where you can, you can see everything that's going on, export it out, and you are good to go. So sorry I didn't interact much with chat. That was an oversight on my part, and I just don't have the chat up on my screen, and I didn't want to waste time digging for it. But that's going to be it for this one. Guys, I really appreciate you being here, hanging out with me on this fine day. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you picked something up and learned something and enjoyed what we had for you today. And until next time, see you later.